So what, just to go through it quickly again, we'll go horizontally. So the three inyanim that Chava was makalkel, Adam is described as Dome Shalolam, the blood of the world, explained, because he prayed for rain, which saturated and gave life to the world like blood. So that's thinking of Nida. What is this in Avodah? Avodah is Habirurim, the refinement, expelling the waste, and elevating, incorporating the nutrients. That's Avodah Habirurim. That's Yitzias Mitzrayim, which is described as B'domayi Chayi, by your blood, live. And that corresponds to the level of Nefesh, which is Peil Mamish, which is Surmira, Peil Mamish, number one. Al Seder Aksuvim is Surmira. Then he's thinking of Chala Tahira Shalaylam, that corresponds to Chala, obviously. What's the connection to Chala? So the Rebbe stresses in the Maimer, Chala is the choice part of the dough, as it were. So he was from the Ofar Meshubach, he was from the choice earth, which at the end was the quote from the Zohar, which is based on Midrash Shamayla, and that's Matan Torah. Which aspect of Matan Torah? Where Poskas Umosan, there's no longer any filth, literally. And that's the end where the blood is now transformed into chalav, into milk, also connected, as we pointed out, to Matan Torah. Har Gavnunim, one of the basic reasons we eat dairy brought down, basic, is because Har Sinai is called in Tilim Har Gavnunim, Gvina, cheese. That's the basic reason. All the rest are more Muslim. So that's yin of chalav, where the blood is now being elevated, the choice part of it, and it turns into milk. And we explained derech agav that the iser basa b'chalav, according to, this is Bechai, I think it is, the iser basa b'chalav is essentially the milk reverting back to the blood again by cooking it with meat. It reverts. Basa b'chalav is be'etzem, blood, as we explained, we learned the Maimir. So that corresponds to Ruach, the higher level of the Neshama. What's the Ikar of Ruach? The Ikar of Ruach is the Midas. Ava and Yira. We didn't say this, we'll add this now. The Rebbe says in Tanya that Ava is the Shoresh of all mitzvahs aseh, and Yira is the Shoresh of all mitzvahs leis aseh. That's the fuel. That corresponds to Ruach. And then he was in Neir Shalaylam, Neir Hashem, Nishmas Adam, so hence the third mitzvah, Hadlakas, and it's all given to the woman to be misakin the yin of what Chava did. Neir Hashem, Nishmas Adam, that corresponds to the higher level Neshama, which is the seed of Seichel, and Seichel is Eir, Torah Eir, which in the Pasuk corresponds to Baki Shalom, which is Torah. Now the end of the Maimed is missing, I would presume at the end of the Maimed, because we didn't get to it. We explained yin of Shalom. He didn't spell it out, and I assume it will be the end of the Maimer. Now, that's all B'chololos and the three mitzvahs of Nida, Chala, Adlakas, and Ner. Then he said, that's the next column where the blue line separates, that the same three inyanim are beprotius in Chala. How so? And this answers all the kashas we had in the Pasuk. It starts off, באכlechem, when you will eat. So what's the thing if you will eat? L'chayda, you separate challah before, but the inyan of ba'akhlachem is avodas habirurim. That's what eating is. How is challah made? That's flour and water, which corresponds to ofar and mayim. That's the aretz. Ba'akhlachem melechem ba'aretz. That's the yichud of zun, as we explained. Ofar is zo, and mayim, I'm sorry, opposite. Ofar is malchus, and mayim is zo. And that yichud, which is an atzilus, produces biyah, which is the guf of Adam Rishon. So that's ba'achlachem. Then there is, you have to elevate a piece of the dough. That is already now the Aveda of Bittul Ayesh, Tarim Etrum al Hashem. Here we're elevating the guf, we're elevating biyah. This is yichud tato, I'm sorry. Which corresponds to asay tov. The first avodah of offer of mayim making the guf is the avodah of nefesh sumira. This is the avodah of asay tov bepratius. And then comes the achilas hakohen, the final stage. I didn't go into the mizbeach. We could add that also, but that's more b'chlolicism, more b'pratius. What's achilas hakohen? So this is yichud ilah. That's amshacha of Ab and Iman, and even higher atik. The star number 1 tells us that the first stage, which is באכלכם and Tarim Truma Hashem, so that is all the stages of Lechem in the Aretz, Yichud Tato, Bitl Hayesh, Sumira Seitov. Then Achilas HaKoyen, 2 stars, is Lechem in the Shemayim, Yichud Ilah, Bitl B'Metzias. Then he added at the end of the Mayim, but that's the 3 stars. Now the 3 stars all belong, they're all levels in the 3rd level gufa of Achilas HaKoyen. What is this Hamshach of Yichud Ilah? So B'chlolis, he said, it's the Hamshach which comes through Shmonesrei. The whole Avodah till now was Avodah Tefillah, as he explained, and then Tefillah is where they wish to respond. Shmonesrei is Pasha, till now the person says bonus. And what's Tefillah? Tefillah is where Hashem responds with the 12 middle brachas there, and the Hamshach of all these inyanim. So that is the first inyan. That's the first level. Tefillah, Shmonesrei, Bittul. K'mavor Chassidus, that Bittul is, that Shmonesrei is Yichud Ilah, total Bittul, Adnai Svasei Tiftach. God has to open up my mouth that I relate your praises in state of complete Bittul. That's the highest darg of Tefillah. He says, nonetheless, he added, but the Ikar Hamshach is not even Tefillah, because Tefillah at the end of the day, he starts saying, is still Avodas Ha'adam, so it's still limited. So where's the Ikar Hamshach? It's through Torah. What's Torah? Was a whole arichas, a beautiful arichas in the Maimer with the Oyer, even though Torah is Chachma, but here it's not the Keli, there's no recipient here, there's no Keli, it's the Oyer itself becomes an Etzir of Chachma, as we explained at length and we learned that part of the Maimer. Then he added Gimel, which he didn't conclude because the Maimer is missing, and says, Be'emes, there's a Maila in Tefillah, certainly for us, in brackets, the one who's Teirosei Minosei, so he affects change in the world. He's mamshich mamish the etzem of Torah. But we do not. So where for us is the etzem atzmos drawn down, it's dafkin tefillah, where there's a real change on the ground, reif cholim and mevarech hashonim. And such a tefillah elevates also, as he said, the limud Torah. And that's the meaning of it being kamach in Torah. Okay, this overview only is meaningful if we remember the Maimer, just to remind us to, and help us to pull together all of the components. So the idea would be you learn the Maimer and you have the sheet in front of you, and then when you're reviewing the Maimer with the sheet, it helps all the moving parts come together cohesively. Obviously not everything in the Maimer is represented here, but the general outline is. Okay, so that's Chazon of the Maimer.